You're about to enjoy a Cloudcast original. Local stories, local storytellers, local brands.
Have you ever felt that you as a woman may not appear to measure up when you see incredible women in strong roles? You may be surprised when hearing from women in these positions and how we all share many of the same challenges. Thank you for joining us for the CEO Leading In podcast with Rebecca Jones as we share the journeys of women.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Jones, your host of CEO. We are on an exploration together to discover more about the personal journeys of incredible women in both career and life. We all have paths to share that sometimes take incredible turns, deep resilience, and courage to navigate. My hopes are that the challenges shared here encourage women to take leaps of faith and growth when a journey feels too difficult or unachievable. There is great strength deep within each one of us. These stories are meant to share the ways strong women have taken their dreams to strive and thrive to new heights, despite their sometimes rocky paths, and found a way to lead in. So today we are with Toni Giffin from Goodwill Industries of San Diego County. How are you today, Toni?
I'm wonderful, Rebecca. Thank you for the invitation. It's so great to be here with you.
Oh, well, I'm excited to hear about what you do. For our listeners, if you could just tell us a little bit about what you do every day.
Happy to share. I am the president and CEO of Goodwill San Diego. There's 157 Goodwills across the United States, and San Diego is one of those. And I have the wonderful privilege of leading this organization. So every day I work with over 1,000 employees in San Diego County who work to provide employment and training opportunities to people with disabilities and barriers to employment. So that's why we exist. But as you probably know, we have these stores and donation centers that are here to provide the funding for the mission services that we provide.
Which is a small part of what you actually do. When people think of Goodwill, they think, oh, a store. But that's actually a very small part of what you do. So how do you, if someone comes to you and they have a situation, they have a disability, how is it that you provide them with all the resources that they need?
Well, we have 5 employment centers throughout San Diego County, and we call it the One Door because we want people to be able to come to that location and learn about all the services that we provide throughout San Diego County. So if you're a veteran and you need wraparound services or you need this transitional skill development to be able to find a new job after transitioning out of the military, we provide those services there. We tell you all about what we do. If you're a person with a disability, then there are particular programs we have for people with developmental disabilities and physical disabilities. So that one stop into that employment center will give you all the resources you need to improve your life, become self-sufficient, and back on the road to employment.
And becoming the best version of themselves.
Exactly.
That's wonderful. So tell us a little fun short story about your childhood that maybe people don't know about you.
Oh, well, I grew up in Palm Springs, California in the 50s and 60s, which was probably, as you might know, the heyday for movie stars in that part of the area. And my dad was a golf professional at a country club that was made up of these individuals. So it was quite an interesting way to grow up. But I spent every summer on a farm in Pennsylvania. So I had this wonderful balance of 2 different environments, a very influential, affluent type of area that I grew up in, and then this wonderful down-home farm where we worked and cleaned the barns and brought in the hay and took care of the animals. So it gave me a wonderful balance in my life as a child and wonderful memories.
Wow, that is really cool. Did you milk cows and everything?
Absolutely, 150 head of cattle.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I grew up in Ramona and El Cajon, and my grandmother had a cow. We milked the cow. We churned butter.
Yes,
yeah, we did a lot of that great stuff. I think that's wonderful. I think it does give you a different perspective about life. A lot of people, that's all they know. So here we are in sunny San Diego County. It's very different, right? Okay, so what do you have as one word that describes you best?
That's a tough question. I saw that on the questionnaire, and I'm a little bit of a dichotomy because I have this very steady side to me. I think people would say, oh, she's very steady, she's very calm. But then I have this very creative side, too, that's very artistic and is we always talk about the used goods business as being an extremely creative business to be in. So I don't know, maybe steady would be a good definition.
So the creative side, what have you brought to the table? I'm really want to explore that a little bit. It's very interesting. What are you bringing to the table in the stores that is a little bit different than what is normal or what is perceived as normal in the stores?
Yeah. Well, thrift stores have historically been known to be dirty places, to be, not the most pleasant places to shop. And we've just really elevated them. We call ourselves the Nordstroms of thrift stores for store shopping, excuse me. But in those stores, we want to make sure that everything is merchandised and looks beautiful and it looks like you're a boutique. But on the programming side, one of the things that's wonderful about being an autonomous organization is that we can really look out at the needs of the community and adapt quickly and be flexible with what we see and then address that. And creativity plays a big part in that. How can we do this with the resources that we have, with the people that we have, and address the issues that are most concerning to the people of San Diego County?
Well, and I think the pandemic has brought forth a lot of the how do you set yourself apart? How do you adapt to all of the different health orders? And, that continues to still go on. I mean, it was March of last year, and here we are in June. So how are you going to navigate forward? Do you have any special plans to do some sort of big splash of opening back up 100% and all of that? Do you have anything cool planned?
We're very excited about being able to open up 100%. You're right. It was an incredibly hard journey for us over the last 14, 15 months. We were closed down completely, the social enterprise, the stores. And yet we still had a mission to provide, and we never stopped providing that. So we quickly turned to be able to do everything virtually, which took a lot of ingenuity and a lot of creativity on the part of everyone that worked for us. We laid off over 1,200 people, which was devastating. It broke our hearts. These are people that we've hired and trained and worked with, and we knew them personally, and it was very, very tough. And then had to go back and rehire, and we onboarded over 1,500 people.
Wait, what? You hired more people than you laid off?
Well, of course, there's turnover.
Yeah. So you've grown, though, too, probably a little bit.
No, actually, we're down a couple hundred people. It's been very hard to hire. I think people are reluctant to come back into the workplace, especially those jobs where you're face-to-face with customers. And for many reasons, they not only the COVID and the health concerns, but the caregiving concerns, right? A lot of parents are still home with their children and doing the homeschooling and all of that, so they just don't have that time to be able to return to work. But, setting up our stores, getting all the safety measures in place and following the CDC guidelines was tremendously expensive for a nonprofit like ours and could be used for much greater things, but we knew that we needed to do that. So all of our stores are extremely safe. We safeguarded all of our employees, put them 6 feet apart. Space is really of a, kind of a luxury in our used goods. As you can imagine, the retail cost of a store in San Diego County. So we've put all those things in place, and when the maximum occupancy was 25%, 50%, it was really hard. We couldn't get into the black. We couldn't make money. And the stores are the funders for our mission, so they provide the funding for all those free services that we provide in the community. But once we got back up to 100%, we started to do very well, and we're really looking forward to this week and being able to reopen.
Yeah,
fully.
That's really exciting. So, when you started at Goodwill, how long have you been with them again?
21 years.
21 years. So, what did you do before that?
Before Goodwill, I was a kind of a stop and starter in work. I started off right out of I first worked for the city of Palm Springs in the recreation area, and I loved that job, through my AA degree in college. But then I went into retail, and I was in retail for several years until I had my first daughter, and I stayed home with her for 8 years and was a mother and a homemaker. And then I went back into the nonprofit arena, and I worked in nonprofit when my son, and then I moved to San Diego and had another son and stopped and started again, worked in finance at an auto dealership. So really was kind of a jack of all trades, did a little bit of everything. Went through a very difficult divorce and moved to San Diego to marry the husband that I have now and my biggest fan, and had another son. So they're 15 years apart, my children. So that was interesting, a way to raise children. And then I found Goodwill 21 years ago, and it really started my career.
That's wonderful. And, I like how you were flexible, though. And it seems like you're very passionate at what you're doing today. And, I think women need to hear that. Actually, everyone needs to hear that it's okay to switch jobs. When I was growing up, my dad had the same career his whole life, never switched from it. It was in the same industry. But I think that's becoming less common. I think people are being more flexible, and finding something that you're passionate about, I think, is really important because then A, you're happier, right? B, you can be more effective because you really believe in what you're doing. So anyway, I think that's an important message from what you just shared with us. So when you look at success, what does that look like for you?
Well, I think joy, finding that joy in whether it's at work or at home is a success. And then, of course, looking at my children, my grandchildren, and seeing them healthy and confident is a great success measure for me. But at work, it's really changing lives for the better, those positive changes that happen. And in my role as CEO, I think one of the most important things that I can provide is a culture and an environment where people are nurtured and that they feel that they can expand and grow and develop. And so I find great success when I hear the stories of people whose lives have changed.
And the opportunities that you've provided them and seeing them seize them, right?
And have them take advantage of it,
Right.
Rebecca. I think that's one of the greatest joys because there's so much opportunity out there. There's wonderful nonprofits in San Diego County that just really want to help people. So when they reach out, when individuals that are really struggling reach out and want some help, and they take that and they make it the journey of a lifetime to be successful and self-sufficient, there's great reward in that. And I never take credit for somebody's success because it's really their own. They have to do it. They have to take the first step. They have to apply themselves. We can provide that environment and those opportunities, but if they don't take advantage of it, there's nothing that we can do.
Definitely not. I mean, you can't force someone to do anything. I always tell people the one thing that I've learned in life that I think is one of the most valuable things is you can only control one person, and that's yourself. All the other things that come into your life, you can't control them, but it's how you're going to respond to them, whether you seize the opportunities that are afforded to you from others. I think that is a really important lesson. I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm going to ask you. 211. Are you affiliated with 211?
Absolutely.
Okay, I figured
Yes,
you would be.
yes.
And, most of the municipalities spend a lot of money on that resource. I often tell people, oh, you're having an issue, call 211 because they can help lead you in the right direction for all that you need to get you moving forward, whether it be counseling or job opportunities or skill searching or all of these different things. So I'm really glad to hear that you are involved with that. Tell me, do you find that to be a good resource for you?
It's an excellent resource, and I wish more people would take advantage of it because it's, hard to navigate all the resources and nonprofits that are in San Diego. I try and be very collaborative, and our organization does too, because we want to be really good at what we do, but we know there's so many other wraparound services that people need to be successful, especially in employment. right? They need transportation. They need childcare. They need a good place to live. They need a healthy diet to be successful in employment. And so we want to make sure that we have our feelers out and that we know how to connect people to all these other services. And 211 is just a great resource for that.
Healthy eating. I love that.
Yes.
That's actually a dream of mine. One day I'm going to do that to help people learn how to eat healthy, because a lot of things you just don't know. And as our population gets older and we are experiencing all of these different things, COVID even, but all of these different things health-wise, feeding our bodies the right thing is something that a lot of people don't know. They tend to eat a lot of processed food because we're always in a time crunch. I don't know about you, but I am always in a time crunch. But, my ex-husband had been diagnosed with cancer. And so I did a lot of delving into how do we fight this, with our bodies. And that was one thing that I learned. A lot of the food that we put into our bodies is just not good for us. I don't eat any high fructose corn syrup that in my house ever. I check the labels. If it has it, it does not come into my house. I know when I'm outside the home, I can't control what I'm eating as much, but I think just these basic things are really important. I love that you're doing that. That is really special.
And, we sabotage that success and all those wonderful opportunities we have when our bodies are not up to the challenge, right? So it really takes that dedication to your own health, mentally, physically, to be able to meet those challenges and to be successful and to get to, because otherwise we're just sabotaging all the things that could happen, wonderful things that could happen in our lives.
And we don't know what we don't know. So the
Exactly.
fact that you're spending time doing that is really, I think, very special. So what is the most significant barrier, do you think, so far in your life that you've had?
I think my own self-inflicted barriers are probably the ones that have been the most difficult to get over. People have been very gracious. I've had wonderful mentors and people in my life to give me opportunities, but there's always that little nagging, I think, if we're all honest. Maybe I'm not educated enough. I'm not smart enough. I might not have the skills and the talent to do something, so you retract and you don't put yourself out there, you don't stretch. So I've learned over many years that that's really important, to put myself into uncomfortable situations, to stretch myself a little bit beyond what is comfortable so that I can get over those barriers and over those humps and out of that feeling of maybe inadequacy that we all carry in certain areas.
Well, let's name it what it is. It's fear.
It's fear.
We all have fear. And sharing that is important in itself because I think many of us think, oh, it's just me. I'm the one who's too scared to try something new. I'm going to tell you something, and I've shared this a few times recently, but when I first joined the city council, I was terrified of public speaking. I was paralyzed with fear. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get over this part of my job. I'm never going to be able to do it. There's just no way. But the truth is, as I tried it, as I forced myself to do it, and I felt like I was shaking on the inside, I have grown in that. And we all do. We all grow in things that we're fearful of because we need to push ourselves.
Yeah, I love that.
I think a lot of people are just thinking, how is that even possible? How could you be afraid of that?
Exactly. I was just going to say that because you're so good at it. And, even coming in here today, one of my greatest fears is becoming CEO. I was going to have to be out in public and talking to people and going to events. I'm very much an introvert. I'm happy at home. So that, that was a great fear for me. Coming here today, butterflies in my stomach, thinking about it. But certainly that's something that you've taken on and overcome and done very, very well with. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. I think, again, just talking about it makes it so much easier just to name it what it is. Fear. We all have fear. We all struggle with different things. I often feel like, am I going to measure up? There's always going to be someone smarter than me, more outgoing than me, more dynamic than me, everything. I mean, there's always going to be someone that has a gift that is greater than ours, right? And I think as women, we always go, oh gosh, look at her. She has this and that's better than what I have. The truth is that we all have something really special to bring to the table. And as a community, we're not all going to have the same careers or the same lives. We're going to have something different because we all fit together as a puzzle. And, I try to explain that to people, and they always go, but, I wish I should be, I'm glad that I have this, right? I'm grateful that I have that. And, we all do have our gifts.
And that is the passion about Goodwill that I have, Rebecca. You've hit it right on the heart of it because it is such a diverse workforce. We have individuals with very significant developmental disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, but they know their strengths and they know the gift that they give back in the workplace, and we can see it and how all those pieces fit together and how we work harmoniously together is just the beauty of this. Is what what you say is, let's not look at what we lack. Let's look at what we have and the strengths and that we can give to one another and share with one another. And together, then, we build this tremendous not only workforce, but community.
Well, I think one part of your clientele, one of the most significant parts of your clientele is that childlike not judging themselves and not having that fear because they have not been, I don't want to say ruined by the world, but kind of.
Well, and they focus on what's most important. I'll walk into a workplace and they're the first ones to come up to me to tell me what they did that day and to brag on themselves and to be their best advocate. Where somebody else that may have worked there for a long time and does well every day would not come up to me and say, I want to share with you today how good I was and what I brought forth to this organization. But they're not afraid to do that. And I think that's one thing that we all need to do is be better advocates for ourselves, to be able to share, what have we contributed today?
That's a great piece of advice because I don't know about you. Sometimes I'm going, darn, I really missed the mark on that. Instead of, gosh, I really hit the mark on that.
Exactly.
So that's a great message, really. And I love how passionate you are about it. I think you've been led through all of these different careers, kind of led you back to where you really are supposed to be, because 21 years is certainly not any short part of your career. So where did you start out at Goodwill? I think that's an important thing, too, because a lot of folks don't really focus on, okay, I can take this job, although it might not be the exact job that you want. How do you move forward and how do you get to the point where you really want to be, to the place you want to be?
Well, I had a toddler at home, and I know the only thing that was on my heart is if I go back to work, I want to do something that makes a difference. That's all that really mattered to me because we spend so much time out of the household and away from these precious children that I wanted to do something that really made a difference. So it just happened that I was at dinner with some friends he was the HR director of Goodwill, and he said, we have a job opening up. It's basically a district manager, what we call a district manager today. I oversaw 6 of the stores. I think you'd really like it. I knew nothing about Goodwill. I knew nothing about their mission. I've never shopped in a store. I knew nothing about Goodwill. But I interviewed, and I loved the supervisor that I had, just a tremendous woman. And I took the job, and I dug in. I learned it. It's a very multifaceted, unique business, but I really learned and tried to be the very best at every job that I had. And my career path just kept moving. I finally became the executive vice president before becoming CEO. But before that, I was director of HR and, a VP of Mission and Support Services, so on the mission side and putting all the programming together. But I got my degree. I didn't have a degree until I was in my 50s. So I went back to school and got my degree. Then I went through Goodwill International's Executive Development Program to learn how to be a CEO, how to think about, as a CEO. So, it's never too late. You can go through life thinking that, I skipped my 20s and my 30s and I never got a degree, so now I'm not going to get it. But, things come in the right timing. And it was perfect timing for me because I could apply everything that I learned. I was an art major when I was 18, 19 years old. I don't know, and I got my AA in art, but I don't know how relevant that would be to my career now. But certainly business management degree that I got in my 50s has helped me so much. So it's, the journey is not a straight line.
Well, and everyone thinks when they go to college, that's what they're going to work in. I would argue that more often you are not going to work in that, but you're going to get some experience. And that might be part of where you ultimately, part of your path before you ultimately get to where you want to be, even though you don't know that you want to be it. I mean, 20 years ago, did you think this is where you would be?
No, never. And never had the thought that I wanted to be that either, which is really interesting. I had a wonderful mentor in the CEO that was there for 35 years. And one day in his office, we were talking and he said, I think you could be a CEO. And I just, you could have laid me out on the floor. I never had thought of myself in that type of position. And still today, it seems awkward. I think about it. I think, what is that? How did I get here? But I love it. And I think, Rebecca, it's just what you said. If you're passionate about something, the journey kind of takes you and you ride the wave. And I certainly have done that. And I love what I do and my heart is in it and a lot of work, as you know, in your career, it's work too.
Well, life certainly isn't easy, and definitely to get, to get ahead and to be able to have something that means so much to you. I mean, clearly you really do. You're very passionate about your job and your career and the people, which I think is often overlooked. And even nonprofit, careers in nonprofit. I think a lot of people don't really think about that and how that might translate into something that would be successful for them because it just isn't as talked about as much as, like a career in medicine or something like that. And, we all definitely do have our paths. We do have things that have happened in our life that kind of put us on that path. And I think, I tell every group that I talk to, whether it's Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, high schoolers, I say, try something that you don't really see yourself doing. Try things that are not, of course, dangerous, but are scary for you. Something that seems like, I don't know if I can even do that, but maybe I could. I think that is the only way that you can ever get to something that really you're passionate about.
You're right. Yeah, it is. It's those stretch things that we do that really that we feel the most uncomfortable in is sometimes the things that give us the most growth professionally, personally, as well. I have, my husband was he still is, but he's retired, a Methodist minister for 35 years. And so he, that just being a pastor's wife was an incredible journey, one I never thought that I would be on. But then I took on a stepdaughter. We don't call steps. We just have them all together in this incredible blended family.
Bonus kids.
Bonus kids.
Bonus kids. That's a new term.
Bonus parent.
Yeah.
But there's just so much of my life I never thought I would see, and so blessed.
So, what advice would you give the next generation of young women leaders?
I think to not be afraid to be your authentic self, to really find out early what you're passionate about, what your strengths are, and to not live anybody else's life. I think so often young people try and be somebody else or something that they're not, and their lives get really off course that way. And so I think, to understand that you're good enough just like you are, and that those passions are in you for a reason, and to embrace them is probably one of the most important things you can do in life. And then, as you said, try new things and be your own advocate for the life that you want to lead.
Well, back to something that you said a little bit earlier that I think really translates well to that. If you find yourself on the wrong path, it's not too late. It's not too late to take a shift. And, being 50 and getting your degree, I think that's awesome because it's so inspiring to people that maybe do look at that and think, oh, I just can't do it. It's too hard. I think there's a lot of wisdom in all of that. So what's next for you in your journey?
Oh, well, I'm not sure. I have wonderful experiences right now being a grandma. I never thought, my sister-in-law said it's a whole new love affair, and it is. So I'm watching my beautiful grandchildren grow up, and I'm so vested in them. But for work, we have Imperial County as a region that we haven't even explored and we haven't provided services to. And so by the time it's time for me to pass the baton, I want services in Imperial County. I want to be able to service that community in some way. So we're looking forward to what that might look like as far as employment services for the people of Imperial County. And, of course, expanding and growing the social enterprise. But also, what most excites me after meeting people like you and people in the community, which has been a wonderful experience over the last 3 years that I've been CEO, is that we could be so much more. Goodwill can be such a better collaborator with the community to address the issues that are most in need in the county. And I just really want to jump in and provide all the resources that I can, but also learn from other people, how we can be a better organization and how I can be a better CEO.
Well, that's great. And I tell people all the time, I will be learning something as long as I'm alive. On the last day of my life, I want to learn something new because, again, to really be your true version of yourself, the highest possible, version, most successful, happiest, because I think happy and it's not always, I guess, connected to success, but success doesn't always mean financial success. Success just means that you're doing something that you're succeeding in. And that could be being a grandmother, being the CEO of Goodwill. It means so many different things. So thank you so very much for being with us today. I really appreciate your time, and I love your journey and your care for people and your love for people. I think there's a lot of hope in that. And so thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's been a pleasure, and it's a privilege to do what I do. So thank you for recognizing that.
Thank you.
Now that was powerful. We hope you've been lifted and encouraged by today's inspiring voice. Always remember that life doesn't look exactly the same for each one of us. Never stop dreaming, striving, and thriving. In future episodes, we look forward to bringing you powerful stories from amazing women who learn how to lead in to challenges. Thank you for listening and being part of our community with CEO host Rebecca Jones.
You have been listening to a Cloudcast original. Local stories, local storytellers, local brands. Find more stories at cloudcast.us.